also shift our focus to another big story that we are tracking, because as per international media reports, US authorities are planning to drop charges against billionaire Gautam Adani. The decision reportedly came after a meeting in which Gautam Adani's lawyer made an unusual offer. Now, if this happens, it will be a significant breakthrough for the Adani Group. As per these reports, the US Justice Department and the Securities and Exchange Commission could resolve charges related to Gautam Adani as soon as this week, roughly 18 months after they accused Adani of involvement in a bribery and fraud scheme. But let's tell you a little bit more about this particular case, and we're going to explain everything we know about this case. So, when it comes to this case, what did the DOJ say? They accused Adani of bribery and fraud. This is as per reports in the international media. So, what did the US case allege? It alleged a $265 million solar contract payoff. As per reports, US investors were misled, said the prosecutors. So, let's tell you a little more that we know, that Adani hired Robert Giffra, as per reports in the international media, and that this was Trump's personal lawyer led the defense. And then it was a 100-slide presentation to the US Department of Justice. After that, we are getting to know this is that the case has no US jurisdiction. This is what was told. After that, there was also no direct evidence of wrongdoing. Then so this is the entire team. This was the argument that was put by the Adani team. And then there came a big pitch that Adani offered about $10 billion in US investment and promised 15,000 American jobs. So that was the big pitch, and that was the offer that came in. After which there came in a shift from the DOJ. What did the DOJ say after that? That US is now planning to drop the case, and that criminal charges may be dismissed. So this in entirety, this is what the case has been about. And right now, we also have Raian Karanjawala. We also have Mr. Raian Karanjawala, who's also the managing partner of the Karanjawala and Company. Mr. Karanjawala, thank you for joining us on this broadcast. For viewers who are joining in, who are just learning about the nitty-gritties of the case, if you could explain to us simply about the point that was made by Team Adani, the offer, and what does this mean? What is the implication on the case itself?
So two things. Before I begin, I just wanted to clarify one thing so that it's appropriate, that the Adani Group is a client of mine and Gautam Adani is a personal friend. However, I actually had no participation whatsoever in this particular proceeding. So the intricacies of it are not known to me. What I have known, what I can see is what you can also see and the viewers can also see from the papers. But essentially what had happened was there were two cases filed against the Adani Group. One was an indictment in November 24 by the US Department of Justice, and the other was a civil case which the SEC had filed against them. The filed a parallel civil proceeding against Gautam Adani and the other Adanis. So, from what the papers tell us, and if it transpires as such, the SEC case is being settled by Gautam and the Adanis paying approximately $18 million by way of a fine. After that, the US federal court has to accept it and that case will be closed. The DOJ itself has agreed to drop the case, principally probably because of the arguments advanced by Adani's group of lawyers, namely saying that A, you don't have the necessary jurisdiction, and B, that there was no evidence and to prove that any such wrongdoing existed. On the basis of that, if what the papers tell us and what you say transpires to be true, then the DOJ's case will be dropped. The SEC's case will be settled by way of a fine once the superior US court accepts it. That's what the situation is at the moment. It's the US federal court in New York which has to accept the fine being imposed on Adani by the SEC. That is the situation. Once that happens, basically the cases against this lot of cases against the Adani Group goes away. And again, he'll be free to travel as much as he wants, and he'll be unfettered in a sense. The Adani Group, in a sense, will become unfettered again and able to continue and expand the business that they're doing.
So if the United States right now, and if you're going by reports, if they're set to drop these charges, how significant is it legally, number one, and also in terms of the narrative that many tried to whip up when this case came to the fore?
No, it's significant in the sense it's obviously very significant for the Adani Group, because every case against them which has been filed, which is from 24, which had to some extent hindered their progress, goes away. So the criminal case gets dropped, and that's a huge benefit to them once it happens. And from the American context, the significance, it probably these kind of things happen very often. But those are jurisdictions with which I'm unfamiliar with. But probably this kind of thing, SEC settling cases, DOJ dropping cases after detailed examination on finding lack of evidence, these things happen very often in America. So the significance really will be for the Adani Group. In a sense, there will be a considerable amount of significance for the country itself.
Right.
And, you know, I say that because I was just thinking of what happened yesterday in China when Donald Trump visited. What did he do? He took his whole industrial front rank along with him to China, and he said, put them forward, introduced them and said, okay, look, these are the people who are hungry to do business with China, provided we come to a settlement or provided we come to an understanding, and this will be good for you and it will be good for us. Now, even our Prime Minister, if he were to sit back and look, will find that he has a huge array of industrial strength around him. I mean, you just see the landscape for yourself, and you can help me, and we can count the names on 2 fingers. For example, we have Noel Tata of the Tata Group. India's probably one of India's oldest industrial houses, and coincidentally also the largest largest giver of private jobs in the whole of UK. Then you have the Adani Group itself, where Gautam Adani today is supposedly the richest man in Southeast Asia. Then you have the Ambani Group, belonging to the second richest man in Southeast Asia. Then you have the Birla Groups. Then you have Lakshmi Mittal of Arcelor, who is a steel czar. You have Sunil Mittal of the telecom czar. You have Rajiv Singh of DLF. You have Adar Poonawala and a lot of other people. I mean, I basically rattled off the names of people I know or I work for, Sajan Jindal and so on. Now, perhaps the Prime Minister also going forward will be able to take such an array of industrial people, his industrial army, so to speak, when he goes abroad for the purpose of discussions. And that actually is one of the ways of showing what India's real economic power is.
All right.
See, because collectively, when you look at them, they provide great depth.
Right.
Not only in the present, but also for the future.
Right.
So, in a sense, I think what has happened is not only good for the Adani Group, but it's also good in a general sense for the Indian stock market and the Indian economy as a whole. Because to have one of your principal industrial houses fettered and unable to do business over a pending litigation isn't really to our benefit.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Karanjawala, for joining us and for putting that into perspective.
So I think this is the actual impact that it will have.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've been telling our viewers, reporting about the arguments that were made and how Team Adani argued that this is a case that has no US jurisdiction and that there is no direct evidence of wrongdoing. And yes, what has also caught the interest of a lot of people is the big pitch that was made, that the offer of $10 billion US investment, $10 billion US investment that was promised, plus 15,000 American jobs. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.